Episode number 233 of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. On today's episode, I am going to share 5 of my favorite fertility food staples. So if you're looking to improve your fertility with nutrition, this episode is a must. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. I'm Michelle, a fertility acupuncturist here to provide you with resources on how to create a wholesome approach to your fertility journey. On today's episode of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast, I'm going to talk about 5 must-have staples when it comes to fertility foods. I'm sure if you are trying to conceive, you have looked into lots of different information, and I'd like to share some of the staples that I mentioned really to all my patients and my clients, my online clients as well. So there are definitely certain foods that have been shown to improve fertility health, and nutrition from a Chinese medicine perspective is super important because from food, we get our energy, our qi, or life force vitality, and it also helps build our blood. And the spleen and stomach are really the organs that are in charge of digestion and also taking that energy from the food and translating it into the body so that it's useful for energy. And when it comes to reproductive health, our body requires a lot of energy, and that is why when the body does not have enough energy, because reproductive health is really not the priority of the body, it will put off the energy and put it more towards survival of the body. So this is why it's important to really make sure that your body's getting the right nourishment, nutrients, so that it has the energy to conceive. So that's a huge aspect of conception, which I think people know, but I don't think that a lot of people stop to think about the fact that it really requires a lot of energy, and it's all about energy. And on different podcasts, I talk about really the energy that can get leaked from even emotions and how much that can zap us as well. But in this podcast episode, I'm going to talk more about nutrition and how you can support your body. So I will be covering 5 staples that I personally think everybody should have. And I will start with one of my favorites, and both men and women can get benefits from this. And this is, you might be guessing it, bone broth. So bone broth is Chinese medicine's considered liquid gold, and especially for conception, bone broth is incredibly nutrient rich and has actually been consumed for centuries because of its health benefits. And it basically is simmering animals' bones. You can create bone broth not just from beef, and if you do, make sure it's grass-fed, but also people make bone broth from chicken and even fish, believe it or not. I know, it's kind of like, well, fish bones? Yep, they do. And what happens is it basically has the bones and the connective tissue have lots of collagen, gelatin, and they're very mineral rich. They have minerals such as calcium and magnesium. They also, the bones in the body are where stem cells are produced. So they're basically the building blocks, lots of amino acids and proteins, and it's really, really supportive for the body overall. The collagen is amazing for supporting gut health. So that is super healing as well. And in Chinese medicine, it's really important to eat warming foods. So anything that's warm, not just in nature, like things like cinnamon, but also warm as far as the temperature goes. And having bone broth, you can have it throughout the day, even as long as you're not sensitive to it. So I do want to address that too. Very few people do have, it's more rare than it is common, where people do tend to be more sensitive or have like a histamine reaction to bone broth. It does happen. So just start out slow and see how your body reacts first before either buying a lot or making a lot, just to see how you're reacting to it. And there's so many ways that you can take bone broth. I mean, literally, sometimes a lot of my patients, I have them have it like a tea. So if they put it on a thermos and bring it to work, or if they're working from home, just have it right next to their computer so that they're able to sip it throughout the day. It is something that is so supportive, and it's light if you're having it just as the broth. Or if you want, you can make a stew with it. So have the bone broth be a base and cook other things in it as the base. So you can add vegetables. Sometimes people add grains and meats. And it is, again, very supportive. I prefer, when it comes to fertility health, to use beef bone broth. It is more supportive and helps with blood building, which again is so important for fertility health. And I would definitely suggest grass-fed beef. Make sure that it's grass-fed beef. Some of the products I personally like are Epic. It's really delicious. Can be a little pricey. They sell it at Whole Foods. Kettle and Fire is another one that I like. They have lots of different flavors, so it is very yummy. And just beware of sodium if you do need to be lower on that. And another one actually that one of my patients has mentioned is 365 has a brand, and it's freeze dried. It's just basically a powder. And that's super easy for travel. You could just take it with you, even on a plane, just kind of take a little powder with you. And all you have to do is mix it in with warm water. And it makes it super easy. And the one that I've had before is very low sodium. So if that's an issue or a concern, that is a really good option. Next up is olive oil. So as you may have heard, olive oil is incredibly supportive for the body. With olive oil, I personally do not use it to cook. Some people do. If it is under a certain temperature, it's fine. But if it goes over too high of a heat, then it can actually change its integrity, and then it's not so healthy for you. So it's important to have cold press and raw. And what I suggest is just sprinkle it throughout the day. If you can stomach it, just take sometimes a spoonful, which is really, really supportive for the body and reproductive health. It's a staple in the Mediterranean diet, which the Mediterranean diet is actually very much considered to be supportive of fertility health. Even a lot of IVF clinics are now recommending the Mediterranean diet. One of the reasons why it's so supportive is it does lower inflammation. And olive oil is obviously a huge staple in the Mediterranean diet. So it's rich in monounsaturated fats and is considered to lower inflammation and improve heart health. Now, when it comes to fertility, you want to lower inflammation. There's a lot of conditions such as PCOS that do really well with increasing olive oil in their diet. Anything with high inflammation, endometriosis, but also consider this is that inflammation can impact egg health. So it's great for really virtually anybody. It's also really rich in vitamin E. Vitamin E is great for uterine lining, but it also is an amazing antioxidant, which helps with sperm and eggs both. Reduces oxidative stress in the body. And olive oil has been shown to help regulate hormone production and improve insulin sensitivity, which is really important for conditions like PCOS. And best of all, it is delicious. I really, really love olive oil. And you can literally sprinkle it on anything you eat. You can use it as a salad dressing. You could put it over steamed vegetables. Of course, you want more cooked foods for fertility health. Chinese medicine always considers cooked foods more supportive of fertility health because if you eat too many raw vegetables, they do tend to have a more cold nature. So cooking is also easier for your gut. And I'm not talking about over cooking, but just cooking where you still have like the greens look green and not brown. And then as you're cooking, you can, even if it's hot, you can still sprinkle olive oil on pretty much anything. anything that you eat. So that's a really easy thing to incorporate into your diet. It is very delicious and it is so supportive of fertility health. So next up are berries, and they're absolutely delicious and they are so supportive for fertility health because they are really high in antioxidants. So I also want to include not just berries, but you can also include acai, which are berries, but they're not like the typical berries that you'll think about when you think of berries. But acai is really, really potent antioxidant, and it is very supportive of egg health and sperm health. It's because it's an antioxidant. Antioxidants do help protect the mitochondria in the cells. The mitochondria are powerhouses of the cells and are super important. Like I've mentioned before, it's all about energy. So all the foods have different purposes, but antioxidants have the purpose of supporting and protecting the energy units in the cells, or the energy organelles in the cells, which are the mitochondria. And ultimately, energy plays a really, really important role in conception. So when you're doing that, you're protecting that energy, and you're also improving, because that's really, energy is a big part of egg health and sperm health. When it has its energy protected, then you're improving the quality of the eggs and the sperm as well. And one of the reasons why, as we age, our egg health or sperm quality decrease is really tied to ATP production from the mitochondria. ATP are basically the energy units that the mitochondria create in order to utilize that energy to reproduce, or really for cellular energy overall. So berries are really supportive. Another great thing about berries is that they're very low in sugar. So yes, they have sugar, but they're not like a crazy amount of sugar, which is really beneficial. It doesn't cause sugar spikes and is very supportive for the body. So that is something that I recommend highly. And also you can incorporate it. You can create a chia seed pudding. I know I didn't really include chia in this, but chia seeds are also really great. So you can create a chia seed pudding with a base of a nut milk, and then, as long as you're not allergic or sensitive, and then use berries to top them. And that is a really, really great way to support your fertility health. You can even have it with a full fat yogurt, so long as you're not sensitive to dairy. So those are things that you can have and kind of incorporate into your daily routine, and it can be a staple, something that I highly recommend having. I especially love blackberries. If you look at the darkness of certain berries, that darkness is basically the antioxidants are causing that color. And so when you have the color be even more strong, then you know that it's really, really high in antioxidants. I definitely highly recommend that. And I also highly recommend looking into having some acai bowls, as long as it doesn't have too much sugar and you have that in moderation, because sometimes they'll add other things as well. With bananas, sometimes they'll add those, which is fine, but just always in moderation, because it is really high in sugar, the other additives. But the acai by itself is really, really great and is very high in antioxidants, and has actually been shown to improve egg health. So the next staple is avocado. So every single person trying to conceive should have avocado. Now keep in mind, I'm mentioning all of these different things, but if you are sensitive to them, of course, you should not have them. So always make sure that your body receives whatever it is that I'm mentioning. Otherwise, if your body does not receive it and you have a resistance to it in some way, then you're best off avoiding it. Avocado is very nutrient dense. It has a really rich amount of vitamins and minerals, and it also is a great source for healthy fats. So fats are really important for egg health and sperm quality, and it's really important to have sufficient amount of fats in your diet. It's also rich in folate, which is essential for fetal development, and also plays a role in reducing the risk of birth defects. Avocados have also been shown to regulate insulin levels and improve cholesterol levels because their HDL, which is the healthy cholesterol, is high and it keeps the LDL in check. And it's also literally one of my favorite fruits. And yes, it is a fruit. It is one of my favorites. You can make it in so many different ways. I absolutely love guacamole. And if you add lemon, it does keep it or preserve it. So that's a little trick with avocado. If you do cut it, use half, then keep the half with the seed intact. That will also preserve it. So avocado is something that is super versatile. You could really make so many things with avocado, and it is absolutely delicious. You can even put it with olive oil and some other flavors to make a salad dressing as well. So that keep that in mind. And then that gives you all of those other benefits together as a whole. And the last staple, which is absolutely important, and I do recommend having about 2 to 3 times a week, but no more, just because of mercury levels, is wild-caught salmon, and wild-caught over farmed. So wild-caught salmon, it's an amazing source of omega-3 fatty acids, and omega-3 fatty acids can help regulate hormone production, reduce inflammation, improve sperm and egg quality. And salmon's also an amazing source for vitamin D, which is really important for fertility. It can really make a difference because low vitamin D levels have been shown to have an adverse effect to fertility health. And vitamin D levels are important to sustain a healthy pregnancy. So those are things that you want to keep in mind. So definitely always check your vitamin D levels and make sure that you're getting sufficient amounts. And salmon is a great source of vitamin D, so that is awesome. And keep in mind too that the color of salmon comes from a very important antioxidant called astaxanthin. It is a very, very powerful antioxidant that's found in seafood. As mentioned before, antioxidants are really important for fertility health. It's really important for not only egg health, but also sperm health. So it is really important to have those for both men and women. A lot of these foods that I'm mentioning right now can be given to both men and women. So it is something that as a couple, you guys can have as staples in your diet. Make sure that you have it every single week. And the bone broth, you could literally have every single day. So those are my 5 staples, and in my opinion, they are delicious staples. It is not hard to incorporate them. I mean, really super easy to incorporate them in your diet, and most importantly, they are supportive of fertility health. So I hope you found this episode useful, and if you want more information, follow me on Instagram because I do put a lot of tips and a lot of foods and a lot of these like different examples. So it's another free resource that I provide where you can get tons of fertility information. And my Instagram handle is @thewholesomelotusfertility. So thank you so much for tuning in today and have a beautiful day. So that concludes today's episode. You can find all of the links mentioned on the episode notes. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to share and leave a review. Reviews mean everything to podcasters, and I really enjoy hearing from my listeners. You can also find me on my website at www.thewholesomelotus.com or email me at info@thewholesomelotus.com. I love hearing from my listeners. If you're interested and want updates as well as a free ebook on my top 10 fertility boosting habits, you can visit my fertility page on www.thewholesomelotus.com. I thank you so much for listening in and hope that you have a beautiful day.